And those intermediaries have put in a lot of technical and business assistance training, have offtake agreements and so on, and those sources of working capital are generally proving to be sustainable. The challenge with them is that the transaction costs are high and the outreach is relatively small at this stage, but is expanding. Okay, so that's one successful example. Second one, entirely private sector working capital loans, preceded by, and this is the critical thing, enterprise development and investment. So where the private sector has invested both training and probably fixed and movable capital in the recipients, keeps very close contact with them in terms of technical and business assistance and offtake arrangements, and those initiatives are working well too. Then there are a range of equity share and either continuous equity share or equity transfer initiatives by the private sector and by one or two parastatals as well, which are proving successful both in continuing existing enterprises or in expanding existing enterprises, and in some instances even in setting up new enterprises. Once again, accompanied by that close technical and business assistance and offtake agreements. Nice thing here is that there's actually third-party value chain finance involved. The sponsors, so to speak, are using their balance sheets to underwrite the working capital loans, and that's working successfully. Then there are a range of outgrow initiatives which have similar sorts of support. Those are also working, or let's say the working capital arrangements are working there too. And there are also some state-led land reform initiatives, which is very nice to know about, okay, which involve private sector participation in planning, implementation, and investment, which are also proving to be successful in terms of access to and the sustainability of working capital provision. Then there are some initiatives which I think will be replicated elsewhere, which are really private sector supported voluntary income deduction schemes. So, for example, in the sugarcane industry, there's a voluntary deduction scheme so that the smallholders provide the greater part of the following year's working capital through voluntary income deductions. Problem there is always the battle between how much shall I save for next year's working capital and how much can I put into my pocket because I've got to survive between now and then. So what works best is if those voluntary income deduction schemes are accompanied by membership of savings and credit associations, particularly the ones called ASCAs that I think many people will be familiar with, which assist both in working capital accumulation and in consumption smoothing. So when you need money to go to the shop, you've got it in your pocket or you can go off and borrow it. The big distinguishing feature between that and many other savings and credit movements is that they have an annual capital payout that you can time for whenever you want and you can save towards it. So if you're wanting to save primarily for recurrent annual inputs, let's say seed and fertilizer, in most of Africa you would then you would make sure that that payout occurs within, let's say, around about September. Okay, those work very well and they're expanding very rapidly in many countries in Africa. And not only that, they're also very well equipped to cater for the working capital needs of non-commercial so-called subsistence farmers who are not going to be able to raise capital from anywhere else except uncles and aunts. These savings movements are extremely valuable in helping provide working capital for them. And at least one of the big organizations said that they had originally intended to use, I think they'd acquired 150,000 hectares, or let's say they had the rights to acquire 150,000 hectares of land, which they were going to develop on an industrial basis, and a proper evaluation of it. That point I'd want to make is don't overlook sorry, I do apologize for that. Let me just turn that off.
Et la capitalisation de toutes ces réussites-là. 1. Le contexte du financement agricole et rural en Afrique de l'Ouest francophone. Oui. Okay. You have the PowerPoint? Oui, vous nous excusez quelques instants parce que j'avais envoyé une présentation PowerPoint qui ne retrouve pas. Bon, ça va. On okay.
When they come on.
Okay, all right. On continue. Alors, on nous a demandé de parler de la microfinance. Alors, pour ce faire, nous allons occulter pour un temps soit peu le financement agricole par le système bancaire classique. Parce qu'en Afrique de l'Ouest francophone, vous savez que les banques agricoles ont connu des évolutions diverses. Actuellement, il y a le Sénégal, le Mali et le Niger qui disposent de banques agricoles. Par contre, le Burkina, le Bénin, le Togo et la Côte d'Ivoire n'ont pas de banque agricole. Et il faut dire que l'agriculture est financée par le secteur bancaire et qui finance surtout la commercialisation et pas la production. Très peu la production agricole et le monde rural en particulier. Alors, à défaut donc de financement du monde rural par les banques agricoles, il y a eu un secteur financier décentralisé, les IMF, qui ont pris le relais et qui offrent des services financiers non du secteur financier. Okay. Et qui ont pris le secteur financier à la place de ce secteur bancaire. Offre trois types de financement possibles. Il y a le secteur financier mutualiste, les crédits directs et les projets avec un volet crédit. Il faut dire que les besoins du monde rural sont couverts de manière inégale. Les besoins dépassent bien sûr l'offre de la demande de crédit parce que les besoins ont dépassé le stade du matériel aratoire et du matériel de production agricole. Pour passer maintenant, on assiste à l'émergence de services financiers, on assiste à l'émergence de besoins financiers pour couvrir les micro-entreprises rurales. Alors, les initiatives de financement répondent à la demande d'un service financier pour le monde rural et le service financier pour le monde rural et non, les services financiers du monde rural sont financés par les IMF qui demandent la capitalisation de ce secteur financier-là par le monde rural est inégal. Dans ce cadre, le monde rural dispose de compléments de la coopération. Dans le cadre de la coopération bilatérale, on assiste à des initiatives de financement du monde rural par les initiatives du monde rural et aussi on assiste à un financement du monde rural par la coopération bilatérale et la coopération multilatérale. Les difficultés de ces financements sont les suivants. Les crédits sont à court terme, les ressources ne sont pas longues, et financent surtout les court terme, et aussi elles ne sont pas orientées vers les investissements. Les expériences d'un système agricole ne sont pas toujours orientées vers le marché, d'où la difficulté de rentabiliser le crédit. Et le crédit, les IMF ne peuvent pas toujours rentabiliser le crédit parce que le crédit n'étant pas toujours orienté vers le marché. Par contre, en ce qui concerne les nouvelles demandes, des micro-entreprises rurales, des demandes de cautionnement et tout ceci, et bien sûr, les crédits se dénouent très facilement par la domiciliation des paiements. Alors, il faut dire aussi que la microfinance la microfinance dans les pays, cette partie de l'Afrique, ne dispose pas de ressources à long terme. Ce sont des ressources à court terme. Et il faut dire aussi que une des caractéristiques de la zone rurale, depuis ces derniers temps-ci, et aussi il y a l'insécurité, les attaques au sud du Niger, au temps du Niger, au Mali, au Burkina, en Côte d'Ivoire, les attaques terroristes qui annihilent la diffusion de la microfinance. La microfinance aussi ne dispose pas de beaucoup de cadres bien formés, puisque les cadres, une fois qu'ils sont bien formés, ils sont pris par les banques et les jeunes préfèrent les emplois être employés directement par le système bancaire classique. C'est ce que nous verrons dans les expériences réussies. Je dis bien des expériences réussies en matière de microfinance. Au 31 décembre 2015, nous avons quelques expériences réussies. Par exemple, au Bénin, nous avons le PADME Financial et la FESECAM. La FESECAM et Financial forment un réseau mutualiste, du moins pour la FESECAM, qui a une trentaine de caisses, une vingtaine d'agences et une centaine de guichets. Elle finance surtout la clientèle est représentée par 1 million de clients et elle finance surtout des opérations de crédit parentage ou des crédits de stockage et la mise en place des systèmes d'information et un système d'information. Alors, il faut dire que le système compte au 31 décembre 2015 10 millions de crédits environ de dollars, 10 millions de dollars, 1 million de crédits et 160 millions de dollars en matière d'épargne. Au Burkina, le réseau des caisses populaires est le plus grand réseau, de loin le plus grand réseau, qui couvre environ toutes les provinces et à une quarantaine de caisses, une centaine d'agences et 189 points de distribution. Le nombre de membres est d'environ 1 million et l'encours crédit est de 166 millions de dollars avec un encours d'épargne de 250 millions de dollars environ. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'il finance? Il finance surtout la filière coton et ensuite les activités connexes à la production agricole et dans le milieu rural, le système de financement aussi des réseaux de caisses populaires est très connu. Et le réseau de caisses populaires envisage de créer avec le système, envisage de créer un système financier à caractère bancaire avec les autres systèmes des pays voisins, le Sénégal, le Mali, le Bénin et le Togo. Au Togo, nous avons la FUSEC qui a une quarantaine de caisses, une soixantaine d'agences et 189 points de diffusion. Le nombre de membres est d'environ 700 000. Non, le nombre de membres, environ 700 000, et l'encours crédit de 104 millions de dollars pour 188 millions de dollars l'encours d'épargne. La FUSEC Togo finance surtout les mises en place des modèles de stockage progressif du crédit et l'utilisation des déblocages progressifs en matière pour diminuer les risques. Alors, en Côte d'Ivoire, il faut dire que le système de financement de l'agriculture par le système mutualiste est très peu développé si on regarde les potentialités que connaît le pays. Il y a beaucoup de potentialités agricoles et l'essentiel de la microfinance est à 60% basé autour d'Abidjan et les environs. Il y a environ 250 millions de dollars d'encours, 350 millions d'encours d'épargne pour 270 millions d'encours crédit. La Guinée-Conakry, le taux de pénétration de la microfinance est encore très faible en Guinée-Conakry. En Guinée-Conakry, le Crédit rural de Guinée est une expérience, et de loin l'expérience la plus réussie, avec une bonne couverture du pays. Environ 200 000 membres et 5 millions de dollars d'encours collectés d'encours crédit et 7 millions d'encours crédit. Donc vous voyez que les besoins en crédit dépassent de loin les ressources collectées. En 2010, le paysage connaît environ une bonne douzaine d'IMF. Au Niger, comme nous l'avons vu hier dans la présentation, ils ont une très bonne expérience en matière de crédit aux jeunes et de crédit aux femmes, mais ils sont confrontés à des difficultés de trésorerie et de ressources très importantes. Alors, qu'est-ce qu'il y a au niveau de la capitalisation des expériences réussies? La microfinance doit être orientée vers le marché. Elle doit être inclusive et financer toutes les chaînes de la valeur ajoutée en matière agricole et rurale, si on veut que la microfinance progresse durablement. Alors, pour ce faire, les différents acteurs doivent jouer chacun leur rôle. C'est ainsi que l'État doit définir très clairement une politique agricole pour permettre à la microfinance de s'implanter et de financer durablement l'agriculture. Elle doit aussi définir les conditions juridiques réglementaires pour un renforcement du secteur de la microfinance. L'État doit également garantir les besoins des biens et des personnes, surtout dans les zones réputées difficiles, comme je parlais tantôt. Il doit renforcer les capacités des acteurs agricoles et aussi participer à l'éducation financière de la clientèle. Les banques. Doivent comprendre que la microfinance est le prolongement naturel de la est leur prolongement naturel dans le milieu rural. Là où les banques ne peuvent pas arriver, il serait bon que les microfinances y arrivent, parce que les coûts liés à la proximité ou à l'éloignement des crédits sont à prendre en compte aussi dans la rentabilité de l'activité de crédit. Les banques doivent mieux connaître les IMF et développer ensemble des produits communs et développer des garanties, comme par exemple les fonds de garantie, les fonds de calamité, etc. Alors, les banques doivent également avoir un traitement privilégié, par exemple en matière de taux d'intérêt. Si le crédit se fait à 9%, dans les IMF, on peut diminuer de 2 ou 3 points en fonction de leur situation et permettre à la microfinance d'offrir des services financiers à des taux acceptables par tous. Alors, les organisations paysannes doivent organiser un dialogue franc et direct avec les IMF. participer à la définition des produits financiers avec les IMF et ne pas laisser les IMF les faire tout seuls pour la microfinance et jouer le rôle d'intermédiaire entre le système financier et les bénéficiaires finaux. Et les organisations financières, les organisations paysannes doivent enfin participer à l'éducation financière des membres. Parce que les IMF, en le faisant, vont charger les crédits qui vont être très chers Alors, les partenaires financiers et techniques. Les partenaires financiers et techniques doivent appuyer sur le long terme les IMF dans toute la région et participer au financement des capacités, du développement des capacités des IMF, des capacités techniques des IMF, et enfin contribuer au développement du système de services financiers des IMF. Enfin, soutenir et diffuser le plus largement possible les bonnes pratiques en matière de microfinance. Je vous remercie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rocco, for the presentation and also managing our time well. I think we are almost there. Yeah, we do not intend to actually have all the presentations as we intended. One of the presenters will actually join the panelists. At this point, I would like to call upon Henley Okech. Henley Okech is an expert in his own right. He is from Kenya, and he has actually been involved in inclusive finance and small-scale enterprises development for many years, over 24 years. From his bio, you can actually get a lot of that. He has actually been providing capacity in different areas and to different institutions. And I think it's for him now to actually be able to focus us more to areas of where we are as far as the financing of agriculture is concerned in the continent, so that we can actually be able to connect with all the experiences that we have actually been able to get generated by presentations and sessions yesterday, and be able to move forward and make sure that we actually have a clear way forward. So, okay, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This one. This is next. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad to make this presentation at this forum, and I hope that something will come from our meeting in Kigali here. We are talking about International Conference on Best Practices in Rural and Agricultural Finance. So take a look at that farmer. We want to scale up the innovative solutions. How many of us in this room has something really scalable that can reach that farmer there? How many? I'm talking about East Africa, including Sudan, Eritrea, Djibouti, Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania, and Comoros Islands. The map isn't very good, but if you take a look of this area from a satellite picture, you will realize that a very big chunk of this area is almost drying up. All right? So as we talk about scaling up, one of the biggest challenge we have is climate change. This farmer here, if we want to scale up any financial product that we have today, if we want to reach out to them, the first thing we have to deal with is climate change, and it's a big issue for very many countries, from Eritrea to Djibouti to a very huge part of Kenya is completely dry and is getting worse. So we have to take that. Climate change is one of the biggest issues that we need to talk about. Again, the map isn't very good, but you can see the area that I'm going to talk about. That is also another farmer. This is a farmer we want to find how we can scale up, whether it is a value chain, whether it's a agricultural credit guarantee fund, or whether it is the agricultural investment funds. We want to scale it up so that we can reach this farm. All right? This lady here looking after her cattle somewhere, probably in Ethiopia. We want to reach her. We have to think of how we are going to, of the existing innovations, how we are going to reach her. All right? Have a look. All those are our farmers in East Africa. Some of them harvesting from natural resources, almost directly. You have some very sophisticated, even growing vine in some parts of Tanzania. You have fishermen. You have livestock herders in not very dry place. And then you have people keeping modern cattle, for milk. So when we are talking about scaling up functional models, we have to also think of the area. We have to also think of the different farmers that we are talking about. So one of the things that we should be discussing here is how do we reach the different kind of farmers? There are those who live in arid and semi-arid areas. From our discussion yesterday, I didn't hear any presentation on how they are reaching livestock herders in semi-arid areas, all right? Or the fishermen, the artisanal fishermen. I didn't hear any presentation for specific segments of the farmers. So we have a challenge in terms of scaling up. My presentation will talk a bit on the land. Land is a big issue. I'll talk about the people already. I've mentioned the different people we have, but I will show you things like population, density, declining farm sizes. I will talk about macroeconomic conditions in the East Africa region. The last 2 years have not been very good for the whole region. We are beginning not to grow. We were supposed to be rising. Africa was supposed to be rising, or a lion on the prowl, but things may have changed a bit. So I will talk a bit about the economics. I will talk about climate change. And then I will talk about current financial access. I'll talk about the current financial access in the region. Thank God we now have many sources of information, including the 2010 Gallup poll, which was commissioned by a number of multinational development organizations, including the World Bank and the others. And from 2007, the British government has also been financing a number of financial access surveys across Africa. at least Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, and they may be planning to do the same surveys in other parts of Africa. In a few countries, there's also a new initiative called financial diaries. Kenya was the first one to do a financial diaries, where a sample of 300 families were picked at random, and they were studied over a period of 1 year. In every week, they had all the information collected on a daily basis. Their financial lives, they record if they bought something, if they borrowed money somewhere, if they've saved somewhere. And it gives a picture, a very complicated picture of how our population manages, especially those that don't have access to financial services. It gives a very good picture of how these people are trying their best to make do with whatever they have. So there are many studies. Annual bank, for example, I was looking for information on what share of the bank credit in East Africa goes to agriculture. So the only way I could get this information was to look at the annual bank supervision report. At least every country produces this report. So if you go to the sectoral lending, you will see how much went to agriculture. And I can share with you here that it keeps on jumping up and down. Whether you're in Uganda, one drops. But in most of the statistics here, it hasn't reached the 6% of the GDP. It's not happening yet. A few countries. So I'll talk, so another source of information, this is from early last year. There have been a number of what they call smallholder surveys. These are national surveys actually. They've done for Senegal, I think Senegal, Mozambique, and they've done for Tanzania, and I think Uganda. I'm not very sure, but I think Uganda is also one of them. They were trying to see how the Ugandan farmer is using mobile technology to be able to send or receive payments for their resources. I think Uganda may have, but the people from Uganda can help me. So there are a number of sources. There's also a World Bank project going on now where they're trying to debunk myths and myths about African agriculture. So fact by fact, they're doing national, surveys to confirm what is happening, whether indeed agricultural productivity has gone down, or whether average land is going down, whether Africa still has a huge chunk of land that is just lying there, waiting, to be harnessed. They are debunking these myths, including the fact that in Africa, women, the majority of farmers, they are women, those who are involved in agriculture. They are trying to debunk these myths by doing, From yesterday, we heard about how agriculture continues to be critical to the economy of this region. There's no doubt, if you look at those figures, the exports, if you look at the share of agriculture of the GDP, if you look at the number of households involved in agriculture, if you look at the share of employment in agriculture, these figures were up to last year. So if you have better information, I will appreciate. But they are quite accurate. I've compared the figures from the World Bank, from Africa Development Bank, and I hope they remain true to the situation on the ground. So if you just look at that table, I don't want to go into one by one. One of the things you will see is that few countries actually are food self-sufficient. Most of our countries are importing food. From where? From Dubai. Yeah? We are importing food from where? From places which are drier than our area. It's not bad if it is cheaper, but how much electricity? They don't have access to electricity, so they have to rely on firewood. They have to rely on, they have to cut the trees. And of the importance is the population. Our population is growing quite fast. So you can see the more the population grows, the population density is increasing. For a country like Burundi, very high population density, very, very high. And when population density is very high, you will have problem with agricultural production, even conflicts over access to land. Rwanda also has a relatively high population density. But then you have countries like Tanzania, where you have only 45 minutes to go. All right? So that information, you can have a look at the situation. We have a population that is without the digital. If you also look at Tanzania, rural access is at 33.2%, but that was also because of the SACCOs. There is a bank in Tanzania called CRDB Bank. I'm seeing so many people sleeping. I don't know what to do, but let them sleep a little. Look at this. So many people now, they have they've organized savings groups. It is in agriculture, whether it's in poultry or dairy or other, whether it's ranching. The investor actually has professionals who understand how to run the business. They know what needs to be invested for a given period of time. They know how to build capacity. All they want actually is a return. If they come and work with the company or the farm today, in 5 years or 7 years, that are actually available in the rural area. So the only credit that you get outside the Asmara is likely to come from will succeed, but they really invest in these institutions. So if we want certain sectors of our agriculture, if we really want to make a difference in some certain sectors which are very critical, we can also adopt venture capital. We can scale it up. 1 minute more. Linkage banking. It works. It works. But we look at it. We look at linkage banking as something that, we look at it the way we look at this farmer here, the farm on the first page of my presentation. One of the biggest difference that has been made in rural and agricultural finance in the last 10 years is knowledge. Through organizations like Africa, Nepal, the CADEP, although the politicians are not listening, CADEP, they've tried, they've done good policy analysis. They've given good recommendations to our government. Our governments are not taking it. They're not taking the advice. All right? Africa keep on organizing meetings like this. How many institutions in this group, one day Africa should come and say, please, let us take a commitment for the year to. People who are knowledgeable in this field, we are the ones who can complain and look the government. Africa, through friends like the CTA, you need to get the government, go at the summer in the room, and tell them, look, from 2 or 3 up to now, very few Africans, only 9 African countries have invested at least 6%. All right? And that's in agriculture, but that 6% again is invested in what? That 6% might be sitting somewhere in Panama. All right? It could be sitting somewhere in New York or Switzerland.
Un taux de bancarisation de 13%, une pluviométrie de 1800 mm, les produits exportables, c'est le pétrole, le bois, le sucre, tandis que les produits agricoles, c'est peu le manioc, le maïs, enfin tout ce que l'on veut avoir. Comme vous le savez, le Congo est donc dans l'Afrique centrale, qui a une banque commune et 10 banques commerciales qui sont actuellement opérationnelles. Et la plupart des banques commerciales ont des capitaux étrangers ou mixtes et ciblent normalement le commerce, l'import-export et puis les sociétés privées. Nous avions aussi les mutuelles congolaises d'épargne de crédit. C'est les coopératives d'épargne de crédit qui ont été mises en place, qui ont donc au premier degré 53 caisses et points de vente. Au deuxième degré, nous avions dans la fédération des MECODEC qui s'occupe de la défense des intérêts du monde. Nous avions une division exécutive qui est l'organe technique. Ensuite, une structure d'appui qui est une radio rurale. En termes de résultats, au 31/12/2015, 53 caisses, 370 000 sociétaires, 150 milliards d'encours d'épargne. Pour avoir le montant en dollars, il va falloir diviser par 500. 40 milliards d'opposition crédit, 480 salariés, 350 élus bénévoles. Comme structure de financement, nous avions le fonds de soutien à l'agriculture. C'est un fonds qui a pour mission donc de financer la production agricole, pastorale et halieutique, la commercialisation des produits agricoles, l'élevage, etc. Mais ce fonds est confronté à beaucoup de problèmes parce qu'il n'a pas le droit de collecter de l'épargne suivant la réglementation et aussi ces fonds doivent provenir du trésor. Et comme vous le savez, les budgets au niveau du trésor sont toujours de manière irrégulière. Quand le trésor paye, on finance, et quand le trésor ne paye pas, on ne finance pas. Après donc avoir dit tout ça, je voulais revenir sur des points qui ont été, peut-être avant même les points, essayer de dire exactement que au niveau donc du Congo, il faut dire que le système bancaire est très sous-développé parce qu'il n'y a que 12% de taux de bancarisation. Il est partiel parce que il y a une partie qui s'occupe de social, une autre du secteur tertiaire. Il est discriminatoire parce qu'une seule catégorie de la population y est. Pratiquement, c'est les fonctionnaires et quelques commerçants qui y sont. Les autres acteurs de développement, notamment les paysans, sont exclus du système. Il est incomplet parce qu'il ne couvre pas toute la partie, tout le territoire national. Il y a des départements qui sont prévus, ou des régions, si vous voulez, qui sont prévus de structures financières. Ce qui fait aussi l'appétit pour les structures de microfinance. Il y a donc prédominance, comme vous pouvez le savoir, des crédits à court terme et toutes ces banques-là, le financement agricole n'est pas leur priorité. Donc, la situation peut être considérée comme étant aléatoire. Nous avions aussi dit qu'il y a un fonds, nous avions parlé depuis hier, des fonds nationaux qui ont été mis en place pour essayer d'aider le monde, le pays à donner l'accès facile aux agriculteurs. Mais de quel fonds parlons-nous, mes amis? Est-ce qu'un fonds de garantie, le banquier, l'Axis, dans le cas des examens des dossiers, et le paysan avec des dossiers, des dossiers passables, puisque même en cas de non-paiement, il serait toujours payé à travers le fonds. Est-ce que nous parlons d'un fonds de soutien, c'est-à-dire que le fonds pour soutenir le système agricole, faire des aménagements, faire des équipements, par exemple créer les marchés, les pistes agricoles, relier le bassin de production au marché, ou alors nous parlons des fonds de financement, comme au Congo, où on met en place un fonds de financement. Le fonds qu'on a mis en place s'appelle fonds de soutien. En réalité, c'est un fonds de financement de l'agriculture. Mais dans la pratique, le fonds n'a pas d'infrastructure nécessaire pour assurer le financement. le fonds ne collecte pas de l'épargne parce que la réglementation bancaire de la Banque centrale commune aux 5 États ne l'autorise pas. Le fonds n'a aucune entité décentralisée de manière à faire que l'accès des populations à ce fonds soit très facile. Conséquence, le fonds ne marche pas. Et nous avions réalisé une étude. Moi, j'ai participé à cette étude. La conclusion qui a été donnée, c'est que nous avions recommandé au gouvernement de dissoudre purement et simplement ce fonds. Au niveau des taux d'intérêt, là aussi nous devons évoluer. On a comme l'impression que le banquier parle le taux d'intérêt comme étant un indicateur suffisant pour apprécier les performances d'un programme de crédit. Nous disons non, il faut aller plus haut. Parce que nous avions aussi fait des investigations, on a fait des études, on a démontré que les crédits qui ont été remboursés à 100%, apparemment ne le sont pas sur les recettes provenues de l'activité agricole qui avait été financée. Ça peut être par exemple de l'argent qui provient du commerce, ça peut être des crédits qui dans la comptabilité des banques, c'est des crédits agricoles, mais en réalité qui ont été détournés pour le secteur commercial, et c'est le secteur commercial qui paye le crédit. Mais lorsque la banque comptabilise, ils ont des performances de 100%. Je crois qu'on doit aller un peu plus loin. Au Congo, peut-être mon collègue pourrait vous dire ça, dans le cadre des projets que nous négocions, que nous pilotons avec le FIDA, nous sommes allés plus loin. Nous avions dit, il faut donner la parole aux bénéficiaires eux-mêmes. Ce n'est pas la peine de rester seulement sur le taux que le technicien vient prendre. Il faut donner la parole aux bénéficiaires. Et nous l'avions fait dans le cadre de ce projet. Mon collègue pourrait vous en parler, pour qu'on sache exactement si le crédit a été vraiment bénéfique. L'objet du crédit, c'est d'enrichir le preneur. On ne doit pas l'appauvrir. Mais si vous regardez bien, on ne fait aucun effort pour voir exactement qu'est-ce qu'on a pris, quelle est la plus-value de la production agricole qu'on a eue, quelle est la situation du bénéficiaire avant le crédit et après le crédit, pour se rendre compte si effectivement il n'est pas en train de s'appauvrir pour rien. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, du point de vue culturel, un homme n'accepterait pas que sa femme soit traînée dans la boue parce qu'elle n'a pas remboursé le crédit. Il prendra l'argent de sa poche, il va rembourser. Dans la comptabilité, on dirait que 100%. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on essaie un peu d'aller plus loin pour voir si effectivement le crédit a été bénéfique en dehors de ce que nous pouvons considérer en tant que banquier, taux de remboursement 100%. Pour terminer, je crois qu'ici, Monsieur le Président, comme vous m'avez donné 5 minutes, nous devrons continuer à faire le plaidoyer auprès de nos responsables politiques et administratifs. Nous devons le faire sans nous fatiguer. Dans les années 80, lorsqu'on a commencé à faire le plaidoyer pour que les gens viennent à la FRACA, et lorsque nous avions commencé à faire des réunions avec les institutions de microfinance, des voix se sont élevées au niveau de l'État, au niveau des banques d'État, pour dire qu'il ne fallait pas traiter avec le secteur de la microfinance parce que c'est un secteur hors loi. Il a fallu des réunions, des workshops par-ci par-là pour qu'on puisse accepter ça. Et lorsque nous avions vu la confirmation qu'effectivement le message est passé, il a fallu convaincre nos amis de la microfinance pour qu'ils se joignent à la FRACA. Là aussi, nous l'avions fait parce qu'ils ont pensé que la FRACA n'était qu'une structure qui devrait être composée seulement des banques d'État. Aujourd'hui, dans cette salle, je note la présence de beaucoup de responsables, beaucoup de cadres de la microfinance, et je leur rends vraiment un honneur. Au niveau des banques centrales, ça a été aussi le même plaidoyer. Au départ, les banques centrales ne s'intéressaient pas. C'était une histoire des banques qui font l'agriculture. Eux, ils sont trop de l'agriculture. Ils sont trop loin de l'agriculture. On a fait le plaidoyer. Ça a pris du temps que ça fallait. Aujourd'hui, je crois que dans ce cadre-là, le Nigeria est leader. Vous pouvez imaginer par rapport à la présence des Nigérians dans la salle, par rapport aux banques qui sont aujourd'hui membres de la FRACA, à travers le travail fait par la FRACA et particulièrement la Banque centrale. Et je crois qu'il faut leur rendre l'honneur qu'il faut. Quant à nos partenaires, nous avions commencé avec la FAO dans les années 77. Nous avions travaillé avec eux et aujourd'hui nous avons diversifié nos partenaires. Nous avions bénéficié de leur expérience. Aujourd'hui, ce n'est pas seulement la FAO, ils se sont ajoutés plusieurs partenaires. Nous avions appris d'eux, ils ont appris auprès de nous et je crois que c'est aussi une occasion de leur rendre l'honneur. Nos amis, la NENERACA, ou bien la PRACA ou l'ID, nous avions tissu de bonnes relations avec ces collègues et nous avions, à travers les formations organisées dans le cadre du programme TIDIS ici, nous avions organisé des formations qui ont fait que nos agents de banque ont été là-bas, ont appris et aujourd'hui ils se sentent plus proches des préoccupations, n'est-ce pas, des agriculteurs que d'être simple banquier. C'est-à-dire que vous êtes un banquier, vous avez la cravate, le paysan, aujourd'hui on est plus proche, et ça c'est très bien. Mais je dis pour terminer, Monsieur le Président, il faut qu'on continue, il ne faut pas se fatiguer. Si vous vous fatiguez, nous n'arriverons pas. Je pense au même cas. Regardez le statut de la FRACA. Dès les années 77, on a commencé à négocier le statut de la FRACA avec le gouvernement kenyan. Il y a eu au total 6 secrétaires généraux de la FRACA qui sont passés. Chacun à son tour a fait le travail qu'il faut pour convaincre les autorités kenyanes. Il a fallu 31 ans, donc en 2008, pour que nous ayons ce statut. Tout ça parce qu'on a persévéré. Tout ça parce que nous avions tout fait pour convaincre notre pays hôte. C'est très important. Il faut qu'on continue. Je vous remercie.
It looks like, time is really against us. I know we are supposed to be having a health break, but at this point I would like to first invite the presenters on the high table very quickly so that we can be able to wind up quickly. I would also like the presenters, all of them, starting with Mike from the other side. Mike, welcome to the high table. Okay, thank you. Presenters, all of them, thank you. And I would also like to also invite our panelists. We have Dr. Livingston, the Chief Investment Officer with BRD. I hope he's in-house. Welcome. Thank you. In fact, this is actually a session. I would also like to invite Phyllis, I don't know whether I'm from Congo. Yeah. Excuse me for the pronunciation, but if you're in-house, welcome. I would also like to invite Dr. Rafael, the Director General of Banco de Mexico. Welcome. We had a presentation from him yesterday. That's very nice. Okay. Very good. So I'd like to again welcome panelists who have actually not been able to make intervention. But before that happens, I would like to quickly connect and with what it is that we have actually gone through. We have gone through quite a number of very elaborate presentations from our presenters, starting with Mike, who actually gave us different perspectives as regards financing of agriculture. But most important, Mike started with what we would want, and mainly the reforms that they actually went through in South Africa around land, and some of the challenges that came on the way of the reform, and finally it did not actually work very well. Michael also introduced us to the process of actually connecting farmers with finances, and especially the new generation of farmers. The government was mainly involved in doing so. Single-handedly, again, that had experiences, it didn't actually work well. And it got to a point where now the government actually decided to look for other options. And the immediate option was actually the private sector. And we had good lessons and good examples of what worked from the private sector. But all the same, he actually indicated that you need regulations. You need to ensure that you're dealing with a credible private sector. You also need to make sure that they actually focus on the type of farmer that you actually want to support, and most important, use them for purposes of learning skills transfer. And eventually, he also indicated that the private sector was actually able to moderate corruption that actually came in with different processes that were actually managed by government. Yeah, then we actually had Drago from West Africa actually give us the status of the financial institutions of banking. And for him, it was actually very clear that the microfinance were key to activities in West Africa. He indicated they actually limited agricultural banks in the region, and therefore the microfinance institutions were actually closer to the producers. But he also indicated that the savings and credit organizations in most countries in West Africa were actually doing a very good job. And he actually gave examples of the amount of money they were actually rolling out there, and the amount of savings that they were actually able to generate from their membership. So for him, the commercial banks, the microfinances, and also rural circles were actually key in providing finances. But he also indicated that it was also important to ensure that there is actually reform and capacity building in microfinance, so that they are actually able to actually provide services in a more credible manner. And the fact that to ensure that investors actually go into commercialization and transformation, there was actually need for better planning. Better planning and allocation of resources, so that they are actually driven by markets, they are actually driven by business, to be able to actually attract even more financial institutions to get engaged in that sort of process. Once it is actually agribusiness, according to him, it was actually going to attract a lot of other players in the financial sector. Okech actually came up with a number of important issues. One, he actually clearly indicated that we are actually not working in a vacuum. We have challenges around climate change that are actually a problem to most rural producers, especially in our arid and semi-arid areas. And it is actually important that we actually able to reach everybody out there, meaning that one size fits all is not a solution. You need innovative processes that can actually be able to target different groups. He also actually provided us with a lot of data. I think for me, the importance of data is key, where we can actually be able to use data to actually be able to actually capture trends, and also be able to actually put together processes of planning and actions. So he has data across the board, and he actually applied that in telling us, look at this, look at the number of households that are actually benefiting from this, and it was actually very clear. So, but finally, he was actually very passionate about scaling up and ensuring that it works, and also being innovative in trying to package finances that are actually out there, finances that are actually out of the reach of the smallholders that we actually want actually to support, and the small enterprises out there. So I think for him it's actually a very good experience, and I think the issue of data is now in different forms. That we need actually data to be able to make decisions and and also be able to manage our affairs in a manner that we have proper and also very accurate information. From Felix, I think it was a short one. I'm sorry we had you, but we had messages from the organizer that you would actually just join the panel, but you did a very good job by presenting the situation in Congo, especially a profile of the financial institutions, the banks that exist, the cooperatives, and also the microfinances, and also some of the attempts and initiatives that have actually been supported through public finances, through government. And as you put it, out of studies and analysis, many of them do not actually work right. And you have new initiatives supported through partners like Israel, and they are making a case for reform in government to be able to actually get on to a new approach to providing finances to rural people, and also, and especially the small scale farmers. So for you, it was actually clear that unless there are reforms, a lot of small farmers would actually be isolated from accessing credit. And you clearly brought on board the importance of actually involving beneficiaries so that their voices actually have their part of planning, and they also understand these different initiatives so that they can actually be able to sensitize their members, for their members to actually come out and benefit from those different initiatives that are actually out there. So I think with that, I would like to again thank the presenters. I know you also picked a lot from them. Mine was just a quick overview of what it is that we actually went through. And I think with that, we should actually be now in a position to actually give at least 3 or 4 minutes to our panelists who have not been able to make their voices heard, to interrogate the same and also give us hints as to where we actually have problems and where we have gaps, and also be able to actually connect us to issues that we like to make sure that they are clearly understood by I would like to start with Dr. Livingston of BRD. Welcome. You have 3-4 minutes. If you save us time, we want to be very happy, so that we can actually have time for other things. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, fellow panelists and discussants and presenters and all the events. I must say good morning. Good morning. Very good. I'm going to make a short recap, but related to the topic for today, which is the state of rural and agricultural finance on Africa perspective, looking at yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We are going to look at the hits. What did we score? Yeah? And the misses. What did we miss? A lot has been said by the previous presenters since yesterday, but I would want to start on some of the best practices, probably, which they did not mention, which I find very important in the Rwandan context vis-a-vis agricultural finance. First of all, I think from 2005, there has been a radical mindset which has been driving agriculture to transform from being merely subsistence to commercial farming, and market-oriented agriculture. And that has been key. And it is the message that has been driven all through the farmers who are the primary producers. So today, when the farmer is going to farm, whether he's using a hoe, he will have to know how much is he going to invest and what is the return. And if he's going to say to the processor, he will have to know the cost of production, put there a margin, and then require the processor to give a price that gives him a profit. So that is mindset, and has been very significant. Another thing that has taken place in Rwanda which I feel as a participant should take as best practice, has been land reform. It has been said from our presenter from South Africa, but in Rwanda, every parcel of land has a title. So how many, I wanted to know from the participants here, how many from you in your countries, how many farmers have land titles to their farms? To raise up their hands. Yeah, he is one. But in Rwanda, land has been registered and there is land ownership. And that one is very, very, very critical for rural development and access to finance. Reason being that every bank, every microfinance institution, every circle will ask for collateral. So the first collateral that a farmer has is land. If you don't have title to the land, you can't access finance. So this has been something that is very significant, and it has translated into some of the results that were presented, I think, by my friend from Kenya, who said that there is a lot of people who have access to finance, but he attributed it to SACCOs. Yes, SACCOs are many, but even SACCOs ask for collaterals. So I think what has made this transformation is the registration of land and ownership. And if a farmer knows that this is my land, then he's ready to invest on that land. Another another policy change that has taken place that has driven access to finance in Rwanda has been some policies that have been made by government. Some were said, but I think they missed on this one. It is related to crop and livestock intensification program that has taken place from 2007 up to now. What this one has done, crop and livestock intensification, is in relating it to doing agriculture as a market-oriented enterprise. There has been a lot of effort from government to increase production per hectare, productivity. For instance, the production of maize, Irish potatoes, moved from 5 hectares, 5 metric tons per hectare to the current 25 tons per hectare. That's 5 times what it was 10 years ago. Another one has been, say for example, dairy cows. I'm just giving examples. Most of the cattle that we had could be producing something like 2 liters per day. The cows that we have today, most of them, yeah, they're producing something like up to 20 liters per day. And maize production, it was less than 1 ton per hectare. Now it is coming to 5 to 7 metric tons per hectare. So what this one did was to drive, because government invested in that, now the private sector has now come in to see agriculture as a profitable enterprise, and that's what drives the uptake. Time is getting me. Some of the misses, I was talking about some of the misses, I don't think, also the policy is there, there is not adequate provision of risk mitigation measures. For instance, they talked about guarantee funds and the rest of those. But the guarantee funds, to me, they support the lender. Because when the lender has given in money and there is a default, the lender, who is the bank, who is me, I benefit. The farmer doesn't benefit. So what I'm looking for would be a sustainable agricultural insurance. Because when it comes to insurance, even the farmer, even the private sector will also benefit, and also the banks will benefit. Going now to the future, because we're talking about the future, for the bank, the Rwanda Development Bank, we are planning to invest very heavily in the next 5 years, about $170 million in agriculture. And we are going to look at key areas. We are going to be looking at supporting mechanization and irrigation. Here we'll be de-risking. We are going to be supporting agro-processing industries. Farmers, they will be, if industries are there, that is an incentive for them because they will be getting price for their products. We are going to be financing risk mitigation mechanisms. And I think that is experience that we are trying to learn from here, from this conference, especially that is related to agriculture insurance. Because we believe if we do that, then probably the health sector will be de-risked, and probably it can provide more uptake of agricultural finance. And lastly, but not the least, as a bank, we are trying to balance our portfolio. Actually, me as the Chief Investment Officer, now I'm looking at the entire portfolio of the bank. And this is key, because in finance, I think you know the first principle. You don't keep all your eggs in one basket. You can't finance agriculture alone and then you think you'll succeed. So what we do, we are putting a lot of emphasis on energy. And energy has a very, very direct effect on agriculture because it supports industries, it powers even irrigation systems, which we talked about. So, and that one, we are giving it probably 26% as a portfolio. Then we are looking at agriculture. Here, when we combine it with exports, this is going to be, primary agriculture will be taking 24%, but when you add your exports, which 70% of it comes from agriculture, we look at our portfolio to be 45% in that area. Then look at housing, education, and infrastructure. Infrastructure here in agriculture is that one that presents post-harvest losses. I'm bringing in this one. Because every loss is money lost. So billions and billions of food and foodstuffs are lost even if they are produced at post-harvest level. So that is money lost, and those are some of the things that prevent banks from maybe giving more credit, and which limits development of the rural sector. Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks very much, participants. Thank you.
Thank you, really, for being so focused. That was very nice. Down to the point. I would like now to invite at least 3 minutes to our colleague from Congo. His name is a bit complicated, but we'll try. Felice CNF.
Yeah, I hope I'm close to what it is that is supposed to be. So again, take some 3 minutes so that we can also make some progress.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est Félicien Nzaou. Nzaou, c'est l'éléphant blanc de chez nous. Après les brillants orateurs qui sont passés avant moi et l'annonce faite par M. Bastel, je voudrais revenir sur quelques points que je juge importants. Le premier point, c'est que je suis le représentant d'une structure qui travaille avec IFAD, qui soutient un projet gouvernemental intégré de développement rural. Disons, ce projet a un volet microfinance. Et nous assurons comme les prestations de services privés dans le cadre de la sensibilisation, l'appui à la mise en place des caisses, l'accompagnement, le suivi technique et le suivi institutionnel. Ici, je voudrais souligner que ces prestations de services, lorsqu'on soumet les caisses à les payer, même dans le cadre de mutualisation de leurs efforts, posent souvent quelques difficultés. Je voulais également évoquer la question centrale de nos débats ou de nos discussions, le financement de l'agriculture par les dépôts des membres, qui généralement sont des dépôts à court terme, et les besoins d'agriculture sont des besoins lents. Cela pose souvent des problèmes. Aussi évoquer le manque de stratégie nationale de développement du secteur de la microfinance. Nos amis qui ont exposé ici de l'Afrique de l'Ouest sont un peu plus avancés dans ce domaine que nous en Afrique centrale. Peut-être qu'en Afrique de l'Est, cela existe, mais nous avons comme ce petit souci à nos niveaux. Aussi dire qu'il y a un problème d'absence de partenariat entre les IMF et les banques commerciales. Monsieur Marcel, mon compatriote, a évoqué ces questions. Monsieur Ouattara Rasman a évoqué également ces mêmes questions, où les banques se méfient toujours des établissements de microfinance. Elles ont du mal à accorder des lignes de crédit qui pourraient permettre comme de faciliter l'intermédiation financière, parce que les établissements de microfinance taxation trop élevée et ce secteur rural trop risqué. C'est des questions que nombreux d'entre nous vivent quotidiennement. Mais je voudrais aussi saluer peut-être l'utilisation des innovations technologiques à travers un partenariat efficace que les caisses mutuelles d'épargne de crédit que nous appuyons a établi avec la compagnie de téléphonie mobile MTN dans le cadre donc, de l'utilisation de bienfaits de ces technologies-là. Aujourd'hui, on fait les dépôts, on fait les paiements à travers les téléphones, même dans les milieux les plus reculés, la vente des crédits, des paiements de certaines factures, abonnements, réabonnements, au niveau des distributeurs, des bouquets comme Canal ou autres. Aussi évoquer les questions de renforcement des capacités. Il est souvent difficile de concilier qualité professionnelle et coût. Dans ces milieux ruraux, il y a souvent un problème. Vous avez un personnel disponible qui voudrait être bien payé, sinon le personnel que vous trouvez, que vous pouvez payer à bas prix, ne peut pas présenter les vraies compétences. Et la plupart du temps, placer ces gens à un niveau de compétence élevé demande beaucoup d'efforts, beaucoup de temps. Je voudrais peut-être conclure sur la question de la durée des appuis des projets comme IFAD. Les appuis aux caisses créées ne dépassent pas 5 ans, sinon 3 ans, et que l'expérience que nous évoquons ici est une expérience très récente au Congo-Brazzaville. La rupture de ces financements pourrait faire que ce soit encore une expérience ratée, parce que ces caisses ont été créées sur les cendres des anciennes expériences ratées de microfinance, d'où le parfois de créer ou de relancer une nouvelle expérience là où les gens ont échoué. Souvent, nous connaissons des grandes réticences du côté de la population rurale. Voilà, mesdames, messieurs, ce que je voulais ajouter à ce qui a été brillamment dit ici. Je vous remercie.
So thank you very much for again sharing that experience with us and also proposing what it is that we actually need to do and be able to do it better. At this stage, I would like to give Raphael at least 3 minutes to also. We had a presentation from him, and I think it's important that we also give him a minute to also say that.
Okay. Yes, and I had the time yesterday to talk about the heat, so I can just concentrate now in my 3 minutes with the missions that I have experienced. First, and I think this is the most important thing that we know, is that it is very important to know and recognize that credit will not take anybody from poverty by itself. No? I mean, if you don't have a good project, then credit is not going to help you. Credit is an accelerator, it's the gas pedal. If you have a good project, then you raise and you really could get out of any poverty trap. But if you don't have a project and then you get credit, you just go even deeper into poverty. So that's the most important thing. You have to have a good project to get out. Second, lending to microfinance institutions and regulation of microfinance institutions has to concentrate on having strong and solid institutions. Otherwise, it's not going to last and it's going to be there forever. Microfinance requires a very expensive technology because it requires a lot of investment in systems and training people that was mentioned many times before. But I think that more important is that you need supervision. Check that every debtor that is registered in the system actually is a credit, is paying their loans. And don't get scared about high interest rates by the microfinance institutions. You have to promote competition to get them down, it's a good alternative of credit. Then about warehousing receipts credits that I talked about yesterday, two lessons from Mexico. One, we tried to make warehouses non-regulated entities, and we missed on that. They have to be regulated. Second, you really need to prevent frauds through supervision. You need to see that actually the merchandise is there and that the warehouse have the right procedures. Then I think it is key, and it is very true that you really have to work along the value chain, and therefore you need the association with large companies. You just have to be very, very careful that you don't get trapped in making the small farmers dependent on the large firms for access to credit. That's one of the things that we are trying to correct in Mexico. On venture capital, that was also mentioned, one very clear thing is that venture capital in the US doesn't look for traditional activities like agriculture. They look for very high yield of activities. And so venture capital, if the government does investment in venture capital in agriculture, it has to work with the private sector. It has to work with someone that is taking actually part of the risk. There has to be taught skin in the game, otherwise it isn't going to be a failure. And also venture capital to be feasible in terms of cost, it requires a good legal system and a lot of formality, so that what is registered in the books actually is what is happening. So those are my comments, and I'm very glad to be here and to exchange experiences with you. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. For such a session, we cannot go without picking at least one or two questions, so that we also connect into the process. And I'm looking for just three very straight questions. And I hope out of the three, one of them will be a lady. Because we have three rows, huh? So very quick questions. I can see this gentleman here very quickly. So one question, that is straight. Micron to this gentleman here. Do you have a lady somewhere in one of the rows? Okay, I have a farmer leader at the back. Take charge of that row. Okay, and then I have the gentleman at the front. So start with you.
Thank you. I have my curiosity. I have a silly question to Dr. Livingstone. Why have chosen or why your farmers in Rwanda growing Irish potato? Why not other variety? And what's the specialty of the Irish potato? Thank you.
Yeah, your name and organization.
Sorry, I am Hamidul Islam from Assam, Bangladesh.
Thank you. So let's have our senior there, our former leader there, Sister Komamadu.
Merci. Je voudrais relever que dans les présentations, on n'a pas parlé du partenariat entre les systèmes financiers et les organisations. Et je pense qu'il y a un problème. Parce que si tout le monde dit qu'il faut jouer sur les politiques, qu'il faut que le crédit arrive chez les membres, et que ces membres se sont organisés, comment les réseaux, les banques, les microfinances travaillent réellement sur les aspects de réflexion et action avec ces organisations. Deuxième, donc, je voudrais savoir comment ça se passe. Deuxième observation, il a manqué, comme je l'ai dit, la présentation d'initiatives des paysans dans l'épargne et le crédit. C'est-à-dire que sur tout le continent, on doit avoir une expérience portée par les agriculteurs eux-mêmes. Et ce serait bien que quand on présente beaucoup de choses, qu'on présente aussi, et peut-être ça pourrait nous enseigner. Et pour finir, je voudrais qu'on fasse attention pour utiliser le foncier dans la garantie au crédit pour les petits paysans. Parce que ça peut poser beaucoup de problèmes et dans certaines parties de l'Afrique, le foncier est un patrimoine de la famille. Donc je pense que cette question, nous devrions voir un peu comment c'est traité. Voilà les trois éléments et je remercie donc tous les présentateurs pour la qualité de ce qu'ils nous ont dit. Merci.
So thank you, Sissoko, for your comments. We go to the last question. Gentlemen at the back there, your name and the organization also.
You got Nathan Karma from the College of Agriculture and Veterinary Medicine, University of Rwanda. My question or comment goes to Dr. Livingston. Thank you so much for your from the best practices. Now, I was looking at some of the best practices that you mentioned, and I think in consideration with the other presenters, we need some rethinking on some functional models. If I got like cooperatives which have been appreciated, when you hear the song about cooperatives, some countries they no longer want to hear cooperatives as we look at it. And it is mentioned that management and governance is a problem. Another area where we need rethinking of the functional model is on land reform, which you have just mentioned. If you look at the issue of management, use, and use management, when conflict comes, it is a problem. It handcuffs that best practice. So I would like to hear from you. How can we position ourselves to sustain these best practices, which otherwise may be a problem? Land reform, land management, and also cooperatives. Thank you.
Very good. Let's seek a very quick response from the panelists and also the presenters. I think we have questions directed to Dr. Livingstone, especially around sustainability, and also issues of land as collateral, I think, is key. And also the question that actually came up from the gentleman who got started, I think you captured that also. Also issues of land reform and use of that as a way of actually enhancing access to finance. You might have something to say about it. And I think there was an issue on beneficiaries, and I know Felix want to be able to also comment on the same. So can I start from the far end?
Thank you very much. You know that there's some problems that come with question of time. You try to rush and you don't explain and don't discuss. But I'm just going to give brief answer precise. Why do Rwandans grow Irish potatoes and not other crops? Why do we finance them? I think, why do they grow Irish potatoes in that particular? Irish potatoes are not grown all over Rwanda. It's one particular region. Actually, they have volcanic soils. The climate is very good. But also, the farmers themselves have found that that particular crop is one that is profitable compared to the others. I can give an example. In that place, they can grow sorghum. They can only grow maize. They can also grow pyrethrum. But what I told you about, farmers calculate how much have we put in and how much are we likely to get out. And there they make their decisions. They are very intelligent. So one of the reasons as why they do it, because they find it very profitable as compared to other places. I will give a different opinion about where they refuse to do what they want, where they refuse to grow another crop. We started a soya bean processing factory, and we placed it in the Eastern Province. Now, we wanted farmers to grow soya beans because there were lots of products, oil, etc. But now, on the same parcel of land, they had to grow beans. And they find that the money they get out of beans is more than what they get from soya beans. So it's now it is we are in ping pong. grow soya beans, no, we want to grow beans. So we find that the factory that we have, we are trying to import more soya beans because the farmers are still reluctant to do what? To grow soya beans instead of the traditional beans. So even the farmers themselves, when you have empowered them and they know what they are going to get out of that land, they will take the decision that benefits them. But after, when we go for break time, we can add on. And then my friend Nathan talked about some functional models, those that are working and those that are not working. Rethinking. You see, when you say rethink, sometimes, yes, there is nothing that is constant. Even development, even strategies. At times, everything that we are talking here has not been successful 100%. But what you can appreciate, that has it has produced a very significant impact. Because if you look at circles, those are cooperatives. And these ones have led to financial inclusions. But it does not necessarily say that the cooperatives is the wrong model. They were taken, here in Rwanda, actually the NPLs, non-performing loans, on average, is 70%. So when NPL is 70%, that means 93% is performing, and that's why the financial sector is working. So here, there is a lot that has been successful with these models, but I'm not saying that everything 100% has been unsuccessful. But as development works, we are going to look at these things that are not performing or are not successful, and then we perfect the systems that are working. And I think this is part of the reasons as why we have these conferences. We don't have everything 100% sufficient. But what I can say, those cooperative land reform, land consolidation programs, you see here, we have very small pieces of land per individual. But people put together their land. And when you go, you can find 10 hectares. But those 10 hectares belong to around 10,000 people. But now, irrigation will be cheaper, will be easier. Input supply will be cheaper. Harvesting will be cheaper. Irrigation, even when you are negotiating the market, it will be cheaper. So, economies of scale becomes lower. So it makes a business sense. But it does not, but for that person who wanted to say, for example, traditionally, who used to grow, for instance, potatoes, the traditional potatoes, and you tell him this much land has to be, you have to grow maize because that's one that is profitable. Then they said, no, you are moving me from my traditional food. Oh? So those are some of the challenges that come with development. Thank you very much.
Just on land, very, very quickly. In South Africa, I think the reason why the state was worried about giving freehold title was partly to ensure that people who had real farming capability got the land, and the other aspect was corruption. But there's no question about it. If you do have freehold title, it certainly makes it much easier to get access to finance. However, if you don't have freehold title, what can certainly make it a great deal easier to achieve positive results is rental markets. So that even if people have got land under, let's say, traditional title or lease or whatever it happens to be, as long as rental markets emerge, it's then very much easier to find, let's say, the correct farmers and to allocate access or get access to finance working. And I won't go into the details of that. I'm afraid in South Africa we've made rental markets very difficult to develop as well. So we've struggled in that respect.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike. Just a minute, on beneficiaries, how the message.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je crois que Monsieur Ouedraogo vous a dit ici que la microfinance sur le programme de la. Et justement, en fonction de ce critère-là, de cette condition, que la FRACA a développé dans un aussi à payer dans le cadre de cette alliance. Maintenant, pour tout ce qui est d'initiative des paysans, je crois que quand on met en place, quand on met en liaison la banque et les paysans, il faudrait aussi qu'au niveau des paysans, qu'on fasse un effort pour avoir les informations de manière à analyser de manière exhaustive les performances du système mis en place pour le pays. Il faut des informations sur les recettes, sur les dépenses, sur la commercialisation dans les produits commercialisés, les prix, etc. Il faudrait ces informations disponibles de manière à apprécier notre objectif dans cette situation. Pour terminer, je crois qu'à Dakar, nous aurons des paysans. On a dit qu'on le souhaite. Le secrétaire africain, nous aurons les paysans, nous aurons la banque, nous aurons l'État. On va s'interpeller mutuellement. N'est-ce pas? Et c'est en ce moment-là que le paysan doit être en mesure, ou les représentants des paysans en réalité, en mesure de dire ce que l'État devrait faire et n'a pas fait, ou l'État fait ne l'a pas fait suffisamment, et aussi être critique sur ce que les paysans n'ont pas pu faire. Par exemple, dans le cadre de la formation, nous avions des problèmes pour pouvoir les ramener à l'ordre. Merci.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because of time, I'm not going to give. Now I have pressure from. Okay, 1 minute.
Hello. Yeah, this is very important. A lot of the improvement in rural finance has come about because of the commitment of a few banks in the region. Like Kenya Commercial Bank, Equity Bank, in Rwanda here you have BRD, you have CIDB Bank in Tanzania. They are serious about financing agriculture. I think if we really want them to scale up on this, government can recognize their contribution to the economy. Yeah, it can even be an annual thing. Even Africa, you can recognize the best agricultural bank in Africa every year. Give them some recognition. That can also help to scale up. Inclusive financial regulation and policy, like many countries now have a law that allows banks to work with agents, everywhere. It brings down the cost of, extending the network. Laws that enable mobile banking, and even laws that allows commercial banks and other financial intermediaries to enter into relationship with the savings group, the linking banking. These have really made a big difference. So I think this was one of the reasons.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kesh, for that proposal. I would like to bring this discussion to a close. I know we have raised many issues. We have proposed we want to be able to synthesize the discussion and actually come up with recommendations that can actually connect with the final conference output. There are proposals that are coming to the table regarding rewarding and recognition of those, especially the commercial banks that have actually gone rural, and supporting small farmers and small entrepreneurs in the villages. I would like at this stage to invite you to really appreciate, one, the speakers, two, the panelists, and three, ourselves for a job I wish to provide.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. I would like to request you all to stand up. Stand up. Get closer to one of your neighbors. Closer to one of your neighbors. Shake the hand of one of your neighbors. Shake the hand of one of your neighbors. Ask your neighbor, why are you here? Now, discuss for 30 seconds why you're here. Okay, please have a seat. Please sit down. You see, when we are running late, people might forget why we are here. Start thinking about the coffee, or the lunch will be delayed, but we are here for a very serious purpose. As we are having a quick coffee, continue that conversation on why we are here, and you will allow us to have late lunch because of why we are here. Have 10-minute coffee break. Thank you very much.